All right. It looks
Hey,
like we are recording, ready to go.
good morning to one and all, and welcome to the John Limbacher Show. Take it away, Johnny.
All right. Thank you, Gregory. And welcome aboard. We're back on board the ship Limbo Land, ready to set sail. Cool stuff. So anyway, let's open it up. I know the calls have really been good the last few weeks, and actually the last quarter actually have been really good calls. I know
They've
it
always
might
been great, John.
it might take me a week or so sometime before I remember to get the calls up in the archive, but they're always up there. You can always go back as long as I keep them. I've got somewhere I have the archive from the original SEO Dominator Club, and they go all the way back to 2010. So I have a crazy amount of information there available for everybody. But keep in mind, like, depending on what information you're looking for, some of it might be outdated. If you're looking at marketing stuff, then with marketing stuff, it pretty much never changes. That's going to be, how people react to messaging. That doesn't really change like the tide, like it does with SEO and the whole search engine optimization world and all that. If that's your thing, your best bet, regardless of whether it's my training or anyone's training, your best bet is to stay in the conversation and ask the questions on here. I always keep everybody kind of up to date when things are new and exciting, and which is pretty regularly in that industry. But so keep that in mind. As far as anybody, I know more people have been expressing an interest in SEO. It kind of died out of favor there for a while. Everything we were talking about was just marketing, and a lot of people shifted toward Facebook and other modes of traffic, but it's starting to kind of come back into favor, which it should. When you look at traffic, like when you're planning out your marketing campaign, traffic's always on the end of it. You want to keep the traffic in mind, even in the beginning, because when you're planning a marketing campaign, traffic's part of your plan. If you're not planning traffic at the very beginning, you're kind of missing out on some opportunities there. So traffic is, that's going to be the lifeblood of any marketing campaign as it goes through. So one of the things that you want to do in your very first part of creating your campaign and your analysis piece is figure out who it is that you're targeting and where they are. And one of the lessons in there is about the pyramid of awareness. When you're looking at your prospects, they fall somewhere on that pyramid of awareness. The base of the pyramid is obviously the biggest part, the most opportunity. It also happens to be the longest sales cycle because the base of the pyramid is the unaware. When your prospects are unaware, they're not searching for you. They don't even know you exist. They may not even know that what you're offering exists. They're completely unaware. Like a perfect example of this is Perry Belcher. He made a multi-million-dollar campaign out of nail biting. Believe it or not, there's a shitload of people out there that bite their nails. Now, you might not think that's a problem, but he created one out of thin air. And he took people that were unaware of a problem. You got somebody biting their nails. They're totally unaware that it's an issue. They've done it since they were a kid. Now, all of a sudden, they see a message about nail biting. They're like, oh, shit. They associate with it because that's who they are. They're like, oh, that's me. I'm a nail biter. Maybe. And now their ear is to the message. And he says something shocking. Like, do you know that nail biters on average make $50,000 a year less than the non-nail biter? And you're like, what the fuck? Like, what the hell? And now all of a sudden he's grabbed your attention. Now he takes you into a whole conversation about appearances. And he makes you aware now that people around you are aware that you're a nail biter. And he almost makes it seem like you still suck your thumb like you did when you were 2 years old. And now all of a sudden you got a complex problem that you didn't have 5 minutes ago. Now you're aware. So you see where the base of that pyramid, there's a lot of opportunity there if you know how to position it. So you can make people aware of a problem and then you lead them through the funnel. And his marketing campaign for that was so simple, it was brilliant. He had follow-up emails that went out. And he sent an email out every 2 to 3 days, and the subject line was "Still biting your nails?" Question mark. Still biting your nails? Every couple of days he would hit you. Still biting your nails? Still biting your nails? And he said anywhere between the 7th and the 21st hit, they would buy the product. Most of them didn't buy it on the first round because they were too far down the pyramid. They were unaware. They just became aware. Generally, people don't buy. The trigger for buying is not when you first become aware. It's once you get educated. So as you do your marketing campaign, you educate them. Every one of those emails he sent out had a little tidbit about why biting your nails is a bad thing. And he just keep hitting you with it over and over and over until you were educated enough that it was a big enough problem. The solution basically, it was the price of the solution was the right price to outweigh the problem. So they took that. They took the solution. Brilliant campaign. He made a multi-million-dollar campaign for him. And that was Perry. He's one of the brightest marketing guys I know. And to take something so simple, stupid like that and turn it into a couple $1,000,000, that's pretty cool. So anybody that thinks there's not hope, just take a peek at that campaign. Anybody could have done that. You just have to identify a problem that's big enough. Look at, how many people are in what part of the pyramid, and that's where your campaign starts. If you want to hit them at the unaware, again, you got the longest campaign, 7 to 21 touches before he'd make a sale. That's a long campaign. Most people are impatient. They don't want to wait that long. They want the quick buck, and that usually doesn't exist. If you find a quick buck marketing campaign, it's because they're up in the part of the pyramid where they're ready to buy. So there's 4 stages of that pyramid. The unaware, the aware, and this is problem. They're unaware of the problem, then they become aware of the problem. The third step is they become aware of the solution. And in the top of the pyramid, the 4th stage of the pyramid, now they're becoming aware of products because they're becoming educated. That's where they buy. So you can hit them at any point in that pyramid. You can go right to the people that are already educated. That's where search engine optimization comes in. That's where SEO is like gold because they're looking to buy something. They've got credit card in hand. They know what they want. They've already educated themselves. That's when you use those magical long tail keywords. Because when somebody is aware, they're very specific about what they're looking to purchase. Think about the example of tires. If you were to become aware that you needed new tires for your car, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to run a search for tires, right? You're uneducated. You just became aware of the problem. You're not product oriented yet. So you run a generic keyword like tires. And guess what Google's going to send you? It's going to send you truck tires, bike tires, go-kart tires. That's not what you wanted. So the first thing you do is you get a little more specific. And you say, no, I'm looking for cars for my Jeep Cherokee. And then you get educated and you find out, oh, those are 16-inch. And I don't know this. I'm just throwing numbers out. You say, okay, there's 16-inch tires that fit my Jeep Cherokee. And I want steel belted radials because I read an article on it and this and that and the other. So when that guy works his way up the pyramid and he's become educated. Now he knows exactly what product he wants to buy. You think he's going to type in tires? No. He's going to type in, he wants a Goodyear steel belted radial 16-inch, yada, yada, yada. And guess who's going to make that sale? Whoever comes up first in Google. Those are the keywords you guys should be focused on, not tires. I see so many people trying to go for generic keywords that the whole world's trying to compete for no good reason. It's expensive and it doesn't convert. You don't want to spend a shitload of money targeting keywords in Google for people that are in that low part of the pyramid. You'll go broke. So this, I've always said, SEO is a thinking man's game or a thinking woman's game. You've got to use your head or you're going to get hurt.
Hey, John, it's funny you use that example of tires because I bought 4 tires for my daughter's. It was one of her Christmas presents. She needed tires around her car. And I specifically went in and said tires first. And then,
Yeah.
I put the make and model of her car in because she's got a little so-called hot rod. You know how these young people have these smaller cars that make noise. They think they're going fast and they're really not. And so I ended up going down that same pathway you said and found the tires and then found 6 or 7 tires and whittled them down to the top 2 or 3 for that car based on the attributes of that tire and our area, geographic and weather and all that, and did exactly what you said. So it's funny you mentioned tires.
Yeah. I've been using that example for over 10 years because it's so fitting. In fact, when I first did that, it was for a presentation and I was trying to come up with a generic example and tires just popped into my head. And I literally went to Google and I typed in tires and I pulled up their image search and it had a picture of an old, looked like a junkyard that was just as far as you could see, mountains of tires, every kind of tire you can imagine. And I used that in my presentation. I'm like, this is not a valid search. I mean, you don't go to a search engine to help you find something and have it give you a needle in a haystack. That's not the concept. It's, search engines are like ask and ye shall receive, but you got to ask the right question. You'll get the right answer. So the whole point of that is guys that are optimizing and thinking that they're going to rank for generic keywords when everyone else on the planet's trying to do that and none of them are going to win. Why play an expensive game you can't win? Even if you were number 1, you're not going to win because nobody is buying tires. They're buying Goodyear steel belted radial 16-inch, yada, yada, yada. That's what they're buying.
And the interesting thing is when I do searches on Google, I frequently find that I have to do 3 or 4 searches in order to refine what I'm asking for specifically to get the results that I'm looking for to even start coming up.
Yeah. And that's part of your education.
Just figure out what Google wants you to ask for. You have to, you were very right about knowing what question to ask. You can't ever know that on the first guess in most cases that I've run into on Google. You have to do several searches even to get in the ballpark.
Unless, of course, like John, I think you're trying to say, be as specific right out of the gate as possible.
Yeah, and
what if you don't know what if you don't know what to be specific for?
Yeah, that's true.
Like I was looking for ADA. I was looking for a tool that would help me search for websites that are not currently ADA compliant. How do you ask Google to find that for you? It took 4 searches before I found out how to ask the question correctly. And then I found a site that had a listing of like 120 pre-existing softwares for doing various kinds of ADA searching. And you could go through those various softwares and actually look for the one that you wanted. And then you found the links and stuff to it. But it took 4 searches to find out how to ask the question intelligently.
Yeah. No, what you have to think about is what question are you asking? Why do you want it? You're wanting to find prospects. So you want a prospect tool or prospecting tool that finds ADA non-compliant sites. That should be, your question should be formed around that.
That
I
was
have,
not the question. That was not the question that got me where I needed to go, interestingly enough.
I actually happen to have one of those. If you wanted, I could have given it to you.
It's part of that education process, remember?
That's right. That's exactly right. But back to the whole thing. Now you know what you should focus on for SEO. So that leads you to your site creation. Now, guys, all of this leads back to the ACT program, and the first step is analysis. When you do your analysis, you find out a lot about your prospect. You find out where they are on the pyramid. You find out what keywords should be important to them. You create your whole education process, and all of that needs to transfer onto your website, because if your website is not specific in its content, it's never going to rank for those very highly meaningful keywords. Remember, that's where you want to show up. That stuff that's so specific, only a handful of people are trying for it. Your chances of ranking on the first page for those keywords is way better, way cheaper, way easier. And if you do your homework and you do your creation process, that's why the ACT program goes ACT. It's analysis, creation, traffic. So, and if you equate that to a mousetrap, you're figuring out first who your mouse is and what they like to eat. What is their cheese? Then you're building a mousetrap. You're putting the right cheese in it, and then the T is traffic. You're bringing the mice to the trap. And that's what a marketing campaign is. It's a mousetrap. The key to any good marketing campaign is figuring out how to take the whiskers off the cheese. If the mouse comes and he sees the whiskers, he's like, oh, no, that cheese ain't worth the squeeze. So, and that's my whole analogy of a used car salesman. When you walk onto the lot and you get accosted by 3 guys coming at you from all directions, you're like, oh, hell no, I'm out of here. That's whiskers on the cheese. You wanted the car, but it ain't worth the hassle. So if you create a marketing campaign that conveys whiskers on the cheese, you're going to lose. You're going to give your prospect the same feeling as you get when you walk onto a used car lot. That's not good. You want a stellar, spectacular user experience right from the get-go. So you got to remove the whiskers off the cheese. That's where freebies come in. That's where lead magnets, like you figure out what's the most important thing to your prospect. On the back to the lessons of the timeline, your prospect is in a certain place. He's got a problem. He's in a situation. He wants out of it. His desired outcome at the end of that timeline is to be in a different state. He wants to be rid of his problem or whatever it is. So you figure out all the things it would take for him to get from where he is to where he wants to go, because he doesn't know. If he knew, he wouldn't be there. He'd already be at the end of the rainbow. So you figure that stuff out and you build a marketing campaign to educate him how to get what he wants out of life, or whatever it is, out of that day maybe. And you put that down, and the first thing, your first interaction with him is, hey, it's not that hard, you can do it. You want to instill a little confidence in him, and you want to give him something that he can act on and do and get a positive result, take a step toward what he wants. If he does that, his confidence level goes up. And guess what he wants? It's like you gave him a cookie. Now he wants milk. He wants the next step. So that's your intro into your webinar. So you give him the free thing, you follow up and you give him even more than you promised. So now you're creating a really good relationship there. And next thing, now you're going to give him some free training, free information, free education for him to get what he wants. Remember, it's not about you. He does not give a rat's ass about anything in your world. All he cares about is him and his outcome. So it's never about you. You don't matter. Your product doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is him getting what he wants. So your campaign should focus on that 100% of the time. So you give him the webinar, he shows up, he's going to learn, he's going to get educated, he's going to get closer to what he wants. The closer you take him, the higher the value of getting the last step becomes. So if you sell a high ticket item and you're trying to get a lot of money for whatever it is that you're selling, If you don't get him a good way of the way towards getting what he wants, he's not going to buy it. The closer you get him, the more he'll pay and the more willing he'll be to pay. So that is like, that's like Frank Kern. You know, he's a perfect example of that. When he does his marketing campaigns for a $2,000 to $10,000 product, he will give you 90% of the whole thing for free. It's the last 10% you'll pay. You'll give up your arm and leg to get it because you want it that bad. And your websites, you know, the only way you're going to figure this shit out is by doing that analysis in the first piece. If you look at ad agencies, they've been playing this game for over 100 years. They're really good at it. They win almost every time, and they follow the exact same procedure every time. It works. If you're doing anything outside that, you're probably struggling. You're probably gonna not have a favorable outcome, because you know you can't change can't change the laws of nature. Gravity is gravity. The way humans behave is the way they behave. None of that you're going to be able to change. So you might as well learn to go with the flow and use the laws of gravity, use the laws of human nature. Figure out, you know, what people do, why they do it, and get in alignment with it. Life will be a lot easier, I guarantee it. It's like, what do you want to do? Walk uphill or downhill? If you do it today, it's going to be the same thing as you do it tomorrow. The hill's not going to get any less steep. If you're walking downhill, it's going to be easy. It's going to be easy today. It's going to be easy tomorrow, and it'll be easy for the rest of your life. Got to figure out how to walk downhill.
Hey, John,
Yeah, go ahead, Janie.
you mentioned a special search tool you have.
Yes, what that was it's actually a prospecting tool. It's for people that are offering web services to customers, to commercial clients. And what it does, it will search on a particular keyword in a particular area. Like you could say car dealers in Huntington Beach, California. And it will go out and it will look at all of their websites. It runs a Google search for that keyword, and it'll look at all their websites, and it will come back with a report, and it'll tell you which ones are not ADA compliant. You could reach out to those webmasters or those business owners and say, hey, we're doing a free service where we're doing a free site analysis to see if you're ADA compliant or not. This is a free service to local businesses that are in our area. Would you like to take advantage of that? And if they say yes, you've already got the thing because you already know, you ran it already. You send them the report, you set up a conference with them to go over it. And here's what I always do. I never make it about getting work from them. I say, here's what you need to do. Reach out to your web team and have them take care of this for you. I'm just creating goodwill and good faith. Almost over 90% of the time, they turn around and say, well, I don't have a webmaster. Can you handle this for me? And now I've got a customer, and I've got a customer for life. Because once they solve that one little problem for me or for them, the next thing they're going to do is to come back and say, hey, you know, this isn't working, or can you do this, or can you do that? I'm like, absolutely, that's what I'm here for. That's the way you create a lifelong relationship with a business owner. You solve their problem. They don't want to do it. They're lazy. They're entrepreneurs. You know, we don't become an entrepreneur to see how hard we can work. We become an entrepreneur to see how fast we can create freedom. And when you step in and you solve problems for them, you're helping with that for them. Remember, it's all about them. It's never about you. They don't care. An entrepreneur, his highest and best use of his time is to create freedom. And if you can help them do that, you're going to be their best friend. They're going to start leaning on you, and you're going to start making more money. And hopefully you're creating that same freedom by creating a team that does this work. Because like I said, none of us get in business to work. We get in business to create freedom. So that's where creating teams, it's not about, you shouldn't be looking at anything as to creating a job for yourself. You want to be the builder of mousetraps and then the finder of fulfillment, whether you're creating that in your own company or you're outsourcing it or whatever. But you shouldn't be looking for clients so you can work. That's the wrong way to look at this. You want to look for clients so other people can work and you can make a few bucks in the middle, because that's scalable. You working is not. You can only do so much in a day, and tomorrow you're going to get the same amount of hours, and it's going to look like Groundhog Day. I don't know about you guys, but that's not what I'm here for.
And I've always been concerned about giving away things for free. Why is there, have you tried? My thought would be, if you're doing ADA compliant, you actually go to them saying, first off, we've done a preliminary search on your site and we found out that you're not ADA compliant. We also find that your SSL certificate is expired. I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll repair your SSL certificate for $25, but we'll give you a $50 credit towards any future work, and we can show you what you're going to need to do in order to get your site ADA compliant or something along those lines. My fear being is that you don't want to call for people that want things for free. You want to call for people that are willing to pay for things.
You know, you just put on the hat of the used car salesman.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question of you were safe.
No, it's good that you did, so I could point that out. That is a tactic. A lot of salespeople do that, and a lot of salespeople make decent money, but they don't create lifelong relationships with that tactic. It's like it's kind of like dating. You know, if you come across desperate, no girl is going to want to be with you. That's when you get the no's. You're going to create a lot of no's by that aggressive attack approach. The free approach, it works in all scenarios, or even if it's not free, low cost. You know, it's like sampling. The one of the most successful campaigns was Chick-fil-A, or however you say that, Chick-fil-A. Yeah, it's probably Chick-fil-A. Their marketing campaign, when they were new to the market, they had people that would go out into malls with plates of chicken and give it away for free as samples. And as soon as somebody got a bite of the chicken, what did they want? You just gave the monster a cookie. You're going to want the whole plate. So again, free led to, if they were out in the halls going, hey, buy my chicken, it's X amount, we got a sale today, you're going to love it. They're going to go, get the hell away from me, right? Used car salesman versus working your way into their life by helping them. You know, they're walking around the mall, they're hungry. You just gave them a bite. You helped them get toward their desired outcome, which is to fill up on something really good. Right? It works every time in every situation. Not to say that the other stuff doesn't work, but remember walking uphill and downhill? Just a matter of what path you want to take. I am the laziest son of a bitch that ever walked the planet. So I'm looking for the way to walk downhill whenever I can. And part of that's identifying what that looks like. You know,
That's why I asked the question. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I love that you asked the question, because a lot of people don't get it. You know, they've heard me say it a million different ways, but the way I just put it to you is very different than the way I've put it out the last 50 times. So hopefully somebody will hear it that way versus the other ways. I'll keep saying it. I'll keep coming up with creative ways to say it till everybody gets it, or you get sick of me and just leave. I don't know.
Well, to follow up on your little bit about you don't want to create a job for yourself. If I'm, let's just say, if I get people that want to do that, I'm going for people to do web development work. work. They have an ADA non-compliant site, so they need to do some web development work. Well, while we're in there, we may as well do some SEO. If you're going to rewrite your tags, let's rewrite them so that they're SEO friendly and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to do it. How
No.
much capacity do you have if I want your team to do it?
Well, I have unlimited amount of capacity because I have a team that does it. My team is as scalable as hiring more people.
Works for me.
Training is all in place. It's really easy at this point for me to hire more people because they just follow the same training the other ones did, and the other ones are there for them to lean on. So it's highly scalable.
So if I want to bring you 50 new clients a month every month, you can handle it, huh?
I will handle it. My team will handle it. I'll just have to scale them up accordingly.
Love it.
When I first started, just to give you an idea of scalability, the way I operate my business, I started doing a reseller program in 2010. That's when the program started. I had probably close to 1,000 people that I was training on SEO. I was telling them how easy it is to get clients. They all loved that, but they didn't want to do the SEO part. So they weren't going out getting clients. So I realized that, and I'm like, holy crap, there's a massive opportunity for me right here to supply this and let them sell it. So I created my reseller program. When I opened that program up, of close to 1,000 people in my universe of people I was training, I got 150 people stepped up and went into the reseller program. In the first 90 days, they sold over $1 million worth of SEO projects to clients. That was what they paid me. They doubled it. So that's $2 million in sales out of 150 guys in 90 days. And I gave them a little incentive. I said, whoever sells the most, whoever opens up the most accounts, I'm going to take them on a cruise. Them and their whole family, I'm going to take them on a cruise with me, on a Carnival cruise. We're going to go have a ball.
Sounds like you can afford it.
And those guys were climbing over each other to win that prize. It was awesome. So anyway, that's
Question answered.
That was pretty scalable. I handled all that business, no problem. So pretty cool stuff.
Seeing as how we have a little silence here, I'll ask another question then, John. When you said, when we were talking last, you said that with regard to selling site pop to people, I forget exactly what the entire context was, but you basically said that we'll be happy to do the site pop program for you, provided your site qualifies. Could you go a bit more into what it would be, what you would want them to have on their site, or what they would have to do to qualify to be able to use the site pop?
And what is site pop?
Site pop is it's a software that, hold on a sec, this is being recorded. So the site pop is it's a software that it's for SEO. And I actually started designing and creating this back in like 2011. And what it does, it operates on artificial intelligence, because that's where Google has gone. It's looking to figure out how people react to searches. So what they type in, what they look for, what's good. So like, for instance, if you have a website and you trick Google into putting you at the top, and people start clicking in Google to go to your site, and then they hit the back button and they bounce back, that sends that artificial intelligence signal to Google, and Google's machine now learns we shouldn't send people to that website because they didn't like it. They bounced back and they went to another site and they spent time on that site. So what I've done is SitePop is an entire network of computers. Everyone that is, all of my clients all of the customers that we've sold it to, they all run our app on either their cell phones or their desktops or their laptops. And now their phone and their desktop, their laptop is now part of my network. That app runs searches for other people in the network. So like every phone that's connected to the site pop, it lights up about 16 times a day on average and runs a search for one of the people in the network. It'll run the search for their keyword. It looks through the Google results, looking for their website. When it finds it, it clicks through. It spends time on the page, it clicks to a deeper page. It does that 3 or 4 times, ultimately winding up on their contact page. And then after a few minutes, it closes the browser session. So what that does is that tells Google that Google gave out the right recommendation. The person loved what they found and they got what they wanted. That's what Google wants. It wants to deliver a good user experience. So I've just identified what that looks like and what they're training their machine to look for. And I'm able to artificially create that with my network. So that's what SitePop is. That's what it does. We've evolved it over the years into just some spectacular innovation to keep up with what Google's machine is being trained to look for. And one of the things that Google does not like is pogo sticking. Pogo sticking is when you click on something, you click back, you go to another thing, and you keep bouncing around looking for something. What they look for is where the pogo stick lands. So let's say you run a keyword and you don't come up for it in the first 5 to 10 pages. What we're doing then is we pogo stick back to Google and we revise the search. Basically what we're saying is, Google, you didn't give me what I wanted. You didn't do a good job. Let me be more specific, dummy. So we revise the search phrase to put your brand name or your personal name or something that is very unique to you so your website does come up. And then we click through to that. And enough of those signals trains Google at, hey, when somebody's looking for this keyword, it's associated with this website. So we should put that up when people run that search generically. So it's really just figuring out what Google's algorithm is looking for and creating it. We can create it out of thin air doing that.
Part of what I think is so diabolically brilliant, John, is if I have a brand new, if I'm a startup shoe company and they're Googling for shoes, all is going to come up is Adidas and, all these brand names. And from what you were saying is SitePop can then search for your brand name, and you can actually compete with Adidas and Nike if you're a brand new shoe company, because SitePop will search specifically for your brand, and it does it long enough, you'll actually be able to be competitive with Nike and Adidas.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, their Nike was actually one of our clients for wrestling shoes. Actually, they still are. If you type in wrestling shoes, you'll see that they pop up specifically for wrestling shoes. And they also show up in the drop-down menu. When enough searches happen for a particular brand, what happens is Google starts recognizing people know this brand, so we should try and get them there as quickly as possible. So when you start typing a search in Google, recommendations will drop down. Those are recommended searches. So we can effectively affect that. Now imagine if somebody starts typing in wrestling shoes and it pops up like it's recommending Nike. When somebody clicks on that link, when they click on that branded recommendation, it literally eliminates all competitors. Because when you're that specific, all of your properties are going to show up. That's where social media comes into play. All of your social media comes up. It eliminates the competition.
Brilliantly done, John.
Personally, it works like a charm.
Yeah, it's really the only thing, I mean, the word diabolical comes back to mind. I saw that they were doing this in 2010. The guy from Moz, oh God, what is his name? Forget what his name is, but the guy behind Moz, he actually did a test on this, and he had like thousands of Twitter followers at the time. Rand Fishkin, that's his name, and he did a test on this, and he tweeted out to all of his users, and he said, "Hey, I want to do an experiment. I'd like everyone to participate. Here's what we're going to do." He said at 9 o'clock, I want everyone to type in this particular keyword and click on my site. And at the time, at 9 o'clock, his site was, or actually it was 6 o'clock. His site was like number 8 or 9, something like that. And everybody hit that thing at 6 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock, he posted the results. In 3-hour time frame from people clicking on his site, he went to number 1 in 3 hours. And that's when I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that user interaction affected search. So knowing that, I went to work and started studying everything I could learn about how user interaction was affecting search. And that's when I started creating that software I started talking about it in 2010. By 2011, we released the first version. It was called Rainmaker. And we literally made it rain. And it's been working for over 10 years. We've evolved it. It's now called SitePop, but it's the only SEO software that I know of that has worked for that length of time, because it's built on my whole criteria of the way I've done SEO since day one was under my methodology of cloud cover. And the cloud cover methodology is just this. It's very simple. It's you do everything in SEO so organically that you could not be told the difference of whether it was live or Memorex. You don't just do one thing and go all in with it. You do enough things that it all looks natural, so you're hiding in the clouds. When you do stuff that you show up on the radar, you do stuff out of the norm and out of sync and out of common sense, outside of common sense rather, you show up as odd, and Google can target you and they can eliminate you. It's like in World War II, the fighter plane pilots, the ones that wanted to come home, they learned to fly in the clouds so they couldn't be shot down. The guys that flew in clear blue sky, thought they were invincible, those are the ones that were, some of them were called heroes, but they didn't come home because they got shot down. You don't want to be a hero in SEO. You want to be an unknown that remains successful and comes home. And that's cloud cover. You do everything in a way that blends in with the rest of the world. Like with SEO, ever since the very beginning, I've always looked at what sites showed up number 1 organically, the real ones, the big ones, and why. And then I replicate that. And usually it's because of a whole lot of factors, not just one. The traditional SEO guy out there, he finds one thing and he hammers the shit out of it and it works. And then he's gone because he flew in clear blue sky. He overextended one thing. He was a one-trick pony. And when that pony died, his game was over. In over 20 years, probably close to 25 years now of doing commercial SEO, I've never had a client site shot down. Not once, not ever. And I don't know anyone else that can say that. So
Impressive, John. Will the SitePop help with what you've with the position you've coined as position 0?
position 0. No, position 0 is a different thing. That's showing up in the ask box or the questions box. So for that, it may help it, but it only as a small piece. The position 0, I've got a whole training on that of how to do that. there's a lot more pieces to that particular puzzle. And that's a cool place to be too, when you can show up in the answers box when somebody runs a search and it says, you know, these are the commonly asked questions. Those are really powerful positions to have. So, but SitePop, it creates domain authority. So domain authority is one of the pieces to that puzzle. So it will help with that, but it's not developed for that. Another thing it'll help for too is the maps. You know, like when you show up in the local listings and the maps, some people call it the 3-pack or the 5-pack. It changes all the time. But we have seen a lot of people have reported that their maps listings have gone up because of SitePop. It wasn't developed for that. It's just a side thing. It's a side benefit. Just like the suggestion box. We didn't develop it for that, but it helps with that. There's a lot of benefit to you proving your worthiness in Google's eyes as far as being a trusted source. They start giving you a lot of extra credit for things, which is really cool.
It really works for maps, and maps are really great for local companies
Yeah.
because those are money keywords that bring up a map. Somebody's
Yep.
got their credit card out, they're ready to buy.
Exactly.
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great tool. I don't know well, I can tell you for sure, no one else on the market has anything like it. That there's a couple of people that are doing some similar stuff, or so they say, but they're not doing it naturally. They're using outsourcers. They're all coming from the same IP. Mine's a worldwide network. We have over 10,000 phones in the network. So that's like having 10,000 of your best friends around the world that are willing to reach out and take an action for you on a regular basis. That's the power it gives you. So Rand Fishkin, you know, he's got thousands of people in his Twitter group. He has the power to do that. I don't. Most people don't. So that's why I created the network, because I want that kind of power.
Happily, John, you're one of the best kept secrets on the internet with regard to SEO. That's a real powerful place to be.
Well, that was my intention right from the get-go. I did not want to be famous. I did not want to be in the limelight at all. And I've stayed that way. You know, I remember the first time I spoke at Traffic and Conversion, it was 2010. And I was the new guy. No one knew me. All the guys that everyone knew, everyone that was in the limelight. And by the way, none of those guys are in the industry today. They're all gone. But all the guys on stage that everyone knew, the household names. And then here's me. No one had heard of me. And there was a heckler in the audience. And Perry was up there talking about, this was crazy. The way he described me was, he said, when I met this guy and he told me about this and that and the other, he says, I knew this character had all his shit in one sock. and I remember Ryan was standing right next to me, Ryan Dice, on stage, and he looks at Perry kind of puzzled. He says, is that a good thing, Perry? Is that a good thing to have all your shit in one sock? Perry, he's kind of a hillbilly. He's got a lot of these funny analogies and stuff. But anyway, after Perry had introduced me, here's this heckler that gets a hold of the mic. And he asked me, he says, you know, if you're so good, why have I never heard of you before? And I immediately turned around and I said, who's the best diamond thief in the world? He said, well, I don't know. And I said, that's right. He wouldn't be very good if you knew who he was, now would he? He wouldn't remain a diamond thief very long, would he? And that was the end of the heckling. You know, the other thing, another question that came up on that particular conference was the whole idea of black hat. And remember this back in 2010, the conversation of black hat arose. And I hate that conversation. I always hated that. I mean, I was considered in the black hat world with what I did with automation and SEO and everything. But I kind of turned the tables on that whole thing. And I told him, I said, here's the reality of the situation. There is no black hat. There's no gray hat, there's no white hat. The only difference is if you're going to get caught. That's the only difference. You're either going to do nothing, you're going to get caught, or you're going to remain successful and anonymous. And those are your hats. That's your white hat, your gray hat, and your black hat. I said, now, what color is the hat if it's on the invisible man? It doesn't matter. He can wear whatever color hat he wants. He walks through life undetected. So, and I also use the analogy of if I had a bag of cash, and I'll pose this question to the entire audience. Let's say I've got $1 million bag of cash on my porch in Huntington Beach. We're all here in, I don't know where we were. I think it was Austin, Texas. I said, we're all in Austin, Texas. There's $1 million in a bag of cash on my doorstep in Huntington Beach. And the first one of you that gets there can have it. The white hat guy, he's going to walk, right? He's going to do everything by the rule book. And when he gets there, the bag of cash is gone. Nobody knew where it went. The gray hat guy, he's going to go rent a Ferrari and he's going to drive 100 miles an hour and he's going to get put in jail. He'll never see that bag of cash. The black hat guy is going to go get on a private jet. He's going to get resourceful. He's going to find the fastest way there. And that bag of cash is going to be gone and no one's going to know who got it. Who do you want to be? What color hat do you want to wear? And I changed the whole look of those hats with that conversation. Because all of, everyone in the world was anti-black hat. I'm only white hat. I do white hat SEO. I'm like, bullshit. If you do any SEO, you're gray hat. You're either gray or black. There ain't no white hat SEO. Don't kid yourself.
Don, I have a question real quick about
Sure.
this visibility and staying under the radar. And it's SEO related, but it's also back to last week's conversation on geofencing.
Okay.
I heard for the first time on the news, geofencing as a term for our government to find the perpetrators of the Capitol attack.
Mm-hmm.
Because they all had their phones on them. They all were taking video and they've got geofencing capability to find out who was where and when and there. So the question in being a person, and maybe this is outside of SEO, but if I did not want to be tracked with this silly little device that we carry with us everywhere, is there a way to do that, to avoid this geofencing? Because you said you're one of the few companies, or you invented it or something, but I know it exists, but you're one of the few companies that does it for marketing. But you're not going to be the only one, and it's going to happen a lot more as we move forward. How do we avoid it as a consumer and parlay it as an advertiser?
Well, the only way I know of, and I don't know for sure that this is 100% effective, but the only way I know of is to actually pull the battery out of your phone. That's the only way I know of that will disable it. And like I said, I'm not 100% sure that will do it either.
Pulling the SIM card would.
Yeah, the SIM card is the ID, but I think when you pull the battery out, I don't think there's any signal to or from the SIM card. So.
Well, but then that means you can't use your device.
Correct.
After 2008, all batteries on all phones are not removable.
Imagine that.
Yeah, that was my first, Lisa, that was my first thought when they said, we don't know, we aren't going to be able to track these people that came into the Capitol. I said, oh yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've actually had 2 foreign governments approach us wanting the technology.
Oh.
And they don't want it for advertising, I'll tell you that. I mean, the way we use it, we've got to be very careful because of privacy laws. So there's certain things that we can and do use it for, and there's a lot of things that we shouldn't and don't use it for. But it will do a lot of other things, like things you probably wouldn't even want to know about. That's why those governments want it.
Huh. Okay, so if all right, well, that's good to know. But I mean, I know that people were concerned when the Messenger app came out and they said, well, they can track you everywhere, anywhere. I'm like, so can Farm Heroes Saga do, you know, so can every app, you know, and the Russians and the Chinese, like whoever, you know, we're just giving it away, you know. In 1984, we are willingly doing so, but there's no way to prevent it, right? Either that or just go get a flip phone.
No, even those, anything with a SIM card is sending a signal. There's a unique ID to every one of those SIM cards.
Well, on NCIS, when I watch, they say they can't be tracked. Like you can buy these untrackable phones.
That's
they're burners. You use them and throw them away.
No,
That's my authority, is what they have on a TV show. That's the authority of how I know it's probably true.
It's just television.
Well, I don't know. It's just, I mean, I barely like technology as it is, you know that. So, but yeah, I just found out on a TV show that I was watching, a pretty big celebrity does not have a phone, does not carry a phone, doesn't use a computer. I'm like, how do you even exist anymore?
Yeah, Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones.
Right. Well, this person was not of that age range. This person was like in their 30s. No social media, no phone, no computer. Has like a Kindle to read stuff on and get email, but other than that.
Well, here's a little piece of advice for you guys. If you're going to do something you should not do, you should leave your phone at home.
Good, clean living.
Yep.
Yeah.
Leave it at home.
There was a gentleman a few years ago who wanted to get off the grid, and he was a technology guru, and it took him 3 years to get entirely off the grid. And he knew what he was doing, and it took him 3 years to go completely off the grid. And it was a big shebang, big article about him, et cetera, et cetera. And he didn't say how he did it, but he talked about doing it. And it took 3 years for somebody who knows how to do it. And
put him right back on the grid when he popped his head up.
And by the way, no matter, like you're saying, can they track me? Can they do this? There are many things within the system, and I'll just call it the system, that have nothing to do with anything that we would know that our government has access to. So other governments have access to it too. Far and beyond what we're even talking about. I was in R&D.
Big brother's watching you.
Yeah, I was in R&D in the aerospace industry, and just this little bit of stuff that I had access to was mind-boggling. So just like you said, strip down, put on a separate set of clothes, and use someone else's car or walk wherever you're going if you're doing something you should not be doing.
Dovetailing off that, at the end of the year, like in early January, I got a Happy New Year from Google, and it said, "Hey, here's where you've been this past year in case you want to go back and visit again." And it's like they knew yeah, and I never, I'm just, you know what I mean. I have another question. I have a question, but not with this subject. I want to wait to the end of this subject before I bring up that question.
Oh, you can go ahead. We've pretty well tapped that one out.
All right. What happened to the Mad Hatter?
The Mad Hatter. I haven't heard the follow-up on that, but I'm sure there was some divorce papers involved.
Well, I would like to know the end story, because that happened what?
That was in October.
October, right? It was just prior to Halloween.
Yep.
You arrived from San Diego. It was a San Diego trip. Your return, your San Diego to Los Angeles. It's when Mad Hatter got in trouble.
Yeah, I never did follow up on that. I'll have to see if I can find out about that one.
Thank you. I need a seesaw story.
Hey, John, I got a question.
All right.
How you doing, folks? I hope you're all doing good. I got my COVID shot the other day. I'm still alive, so who knows?
All right. for now anyway.
Okay,
Exactly.
I'm pretty A, Alice. I know you. And she's the best. Anyway, I've set up my company. The original coaching was, go real estate, and it's errors and omissions. It's tons of costs to build a real estate company, and it's little, and my TV ad is lacking a couple of things as always. But I've just finished writing like a 12-page guide for sellers. And it's from Greg DeWald, and the fact that it's about mindset. So I take the whole process and the way you should be thinking about it. So I have this, I'm going to give away, I guess, on my website, Woody Blackman's Gift of Education. You want to sell now, or then also we offer you these other products. But I don't know how to monetize stuff like that. And I think what I've done too in creating a real estate company is I'm back working again. With all these fucking people, I really, man.
Well,
I really rather mail order. I don't know.
The idea really to monetize is you build a list. So the free thing you give away to get people onto your list so you can market to them.
Right. That'll be the TV ad. I would hope so.
Yeah, but whether you market a house to them or whatever, when you build a list, you know something about the list. They're interested in a house, right? So if anybody that's interested in a house, think about what else you know about them. They might be interested in a moving company. They might be interested in, new furniture. They might be interested in carpet cleaning or landscaping or putting a pool in or having the roof redone. So you have a lot of opportunity to create affiliate relationships to make money off that list, not just to sell them a house. And all of those things are not things that you do. It's just things where you pass through and you make a few bucks in the middle. So there's a lot of ways for you to monetize that list. So don't think that because you spent all this time creating something you're giving away for free, that you're spinning your wheels. You're creating a list that you can market to and make money from.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of giving away 90% and paying for 10. But in a sense, I'm telling sellers exactly what they need to do, and they can turn around and go, thanks for the tips, Woody. I'll do it myself, or calling in another broker.
And for you, I mean, you
don't want to live in fear.
Yeah, you make money in real estate when you sign someone, right?
Yeah, when I list a house generally, and then I want to refer those people to another agent and be like you, take like 30% and pass it on.
So you could give them 90% for them to get the last 10%. That's when they sign with you. That's when they list with you, you get the whole package. So give away 90% of it and give them the whole enchilada upon listing. That's where you're creating that education, you're creating that relationship with them. And then the final thing is here's the whole enchilada due upon signing. Because that's where you make your money. You don't make it instantly, but you make your money when you list a house, whether you sell it or not. You're going to make the listing, right? So you're listed basically as the seller. So even if another buyer comes in, you still get half.
Right. It's a hell of a lot of bookkeeping. It's a lot of tracking.
Well, that's where you sell enough houses. You just hire somebody to deal with all that shit.
I'm working on it, bro.
So John, that's the same thing as me.
10-page guide. give it all away or chop it up in parts or.
Well, you know, Chris, I don't know if you guys remember him, but Chris Koff from Craig's Group, he's a realtor in Crested Butte, Colorado. He's probably one of the most successful realtors that I know. And he did exactly what we're talking about. He created a buyer's guide and a seller's guide. And then when you get on his list, he also sends you out a monthly newsletter that gives you all the details about the market just in his little niche area. So anybody, he gets a ton of referrals because of sending that out to all those people every month. Because he's top of mind when a house goes for sale or when a conversation gets struck up over selling somebody's house, they're like, oh, have you heard of Chris Koff? He's the best. So that's where he generates all of his revenue, all of his income. He's the top seller in that whole niche. And he sells. What's that?
How did he get all the people that's on his list? You know, like the other night, I sent you that company that was going out of business and they had all these domains. And then you said, Woody,
yeah, he did advertising. I think he did local television advertising, radio advertising, search engine optimization. And, you know, in his local community, he was actively marketing in all aspects, but only to his community.
Give him a call. Chris Koff in Crested Butte.
Chris Koff, yeah. It's chriskoff.com. And Koff is K-O-P-F.
Hey, John, if you were to use video as an example of being a speaker, and if you were to use video to do exactly what you're talking about, you're giving them bits and pieces of education on that leads them down the path to your big picture and what you offer.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing the videos, would you put your calendar link in there and then say for time with Randy or whoever, click here and then get them into the system, the database?
It kind of depends. If your consultation is your presentation, then yes. But you want to always keep the end in mind. The end in mind should be a sale based on a presentation. I love webinars. Webinars work really well. Right. So if I were to do a 4-part series of emails, video emails, I would do 4 emails giving them one of the biggest things that they were going to learn from the webinar presentation and encouraging them to go watch the webinar.
Build up to it. Yeah, I just launched my first webinar and I got the most hits and clicks when I did the video. So I had other means, including the advertisement, but when they heard me talk about it is when it seemed like they moved where I wanted them to go. So that's why I was asking.
It's amazing. People do what they're told. You know, when you get them on a path, like anybody that's really good that does a presentation, you'll get people on a path. You know, some of them, the most cheesy thing I've ever seen is when they say the whole yes or yes thing. But they're doing that because they can get people in a path of doing what they tell them. Yeah, they tell them to say yes, they say yes.
Yeah, I don't do that, but I hear what you're saying. Okay.
That's just poor quality craftsmanship in my opinion. Yeah. There's a lot better, more creative ways to do it.
Right.
Gotcha.
But, John,
what you're doing.
Listening to what Woody was saying, I'm trying to combine speaking about mental illness and my psychic abilities, and I don't know how to build a funnel for that.
Okay. Again, it's back to your prospect, because nobody cares about what the thing is. They only care about what they want to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to figure those things out. You got to get that figured out, and then you have to create a conversation around that that's meaningful to that person, and then make them an offer to take them the last step of the way and get them what they want.
Okay.
That's kind of, you know, the rudimentary elements of the mousetrap. You know, in the ACT program, I go through all the little nuances and pieces of how to actually implement that. But the
Okay.
analysis is huge on the front end. Figuring out what they want, why they want it, why it's important to them, what it's going to do for them, all of those things. When you can answer those questions, then and only then do you start creating your messaging, creating your marketing plan, creating your webinars, creating your presentation, creating your offer. All of that stuff is based on that analysis. If you start creating before that, it's not going to be right. I can almost guarantee it. You're going to miss so much, and it's going to be less effective than it could be and should be.
It's just that I kind of know what they want. I don't know how to make a product for it. Besides psychic readings.
Okay.
Like a mood
That's where
ring.
I'm lost.
Well, you have to figure out, how is that going to help them? How is that going to get them what they want?
But there's not much more past psychic readings. I don't have follow-up programs.
Oh,
That's
well,
where I'm lost.
gotcha. So follow-up is when back to the timeline, where they are, where they want to be. Any human being, as soon as they get what they want something new. So you just have to figure out, what is that? You know,
I
like
can't figure it out.
like in the diet industry, you know, the first thing the person wants is they want to lose weight, right? And then once they lose weight, now they have a different lifestyle. They're going to want other things. They're going to want, you know, sexy clothes. They're going to want, you know, fancy vacations. They're going to want a lot of stuff they didn't want when they were fat.
Right, right.
So you got to just figure out your person. That's part of your analysis is, you know, what do they want next?
I like
So,
what you told Woody about the affiliate section of it.
yeah, I set up a woman like 20 years ago. She sold maternity dresses. And when I first saw her business model, I was like, oh my God, I'm in big trouble here. Because here we've got a woman with a low profit margin product. Her customer is only going to be good for 3 months, and then we're hunting for a new one. I'm like,
Right.
this is a disaster. I'm never going to be able to make this woman profitable. And then it hit me. I'm like, the dress is the free giveaway. Who cares if we make money on the dress? And she thought I was nuts. She's like, I have to make a living. I have to put food on my table.
Right.
And I'm like, trust me, you're going to have an 18-year cycle of income. And we don't have to make all the money on the front hit. We don't have to make anything on the front hit. We can lose money on the front hit as long as we can create an 18-year income flow. It's going to more than make up for it. That's like investment. You know, some of the wealthiest people on the planet, they're wealthy because they invest. They know if they put $1 in today, they're going to get X amount of dollars 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and they leverage money to do that. They will go and they'll borrow money at X amount of percent to put into another thing, knowing there's a cost for them on the front end, but knowing what they're going to get out of it on the back end. Some of the wealthiest people on the planet operate like that. And for us as entrepreneurs, we're just investing in customers. It's the same thing. If I told you you could buy a customer today for $10 and over the next 20 years, it was going to bring you back, you know, 1,000, how many would you want to buy?
A lot of them.
You'd go borrow money to buy those people, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's advertising. People don't get it. They don't get putting money in to buy customers. Or they haven't built the right
example that you gave about the maternity clothes. So then what were the steps? She just became an affiliate?
She was an affiliate. Her job was not to make maternity dresses. Her job was to figure out what that expectant mother was going to need every step of the way for the next 18 years.
Okay.
So she knew it before they knew it. And guess who was their best friend for the next 18 years?
Okay.
This woman that's answering their questions before they even have them. It's like, talk about a psychic reader. That's psychic reading, knowing what they need before they know it. So you can shortcut their learning curves, remove their learning curves, make their life better.
Right.
So, John, I have a question that I wanted to ask, and it's somewhat related now actually to what you're talking about. But how can we use, just in the mindset of having different streams of income, how should we look at affiliate links, for instance? Like, is it, I know that I have to sign up for a lot of things to be an affiliate, which you always tell us this is a great idea and I have to do that. But is it something that's, whether it's Mango branding related or branding related or not, it can one kind of have a place in your, on your website that just like these are additional resources or something? Just how do you think would that, in my case, be, you know, helpful? You know, because I sell business to business, and a lot of these things you talk about and that I can get affiliate links for, like SitePop and other things, can be helpful to businesses, even though it's not branding related. Is that okay? And how do you?
Absolutely. Like, one of the things that I've done over the years that I've made a pretty good amount of money, I'm still making money off this today, is I've created resource guides. Like, I'm like, how would you guys like to know all of the resources that I use in my current business? So you could take them and use them just like I do. People love that. That's a free thing I can give away. And guess what's in there? It's all affiliate links. It's all the stuff I use. Like Kartra, for instance. I tell people how great Kartra is. I tell them how I use it. I tell them how it's changed my business, how they can use it, how it'll change their business. And everybody that signs up for Kartra, that's like $40 a month to me. So every month I get this nice check from Kartra. And think about that. That's helping someone find something that's going to help their business, and I get paid for it.
Another big benefit, John, is they're pre-vetted, you know, resources. Because most of the time, if you don't get a recommendation from somebody, you're buying a pig in a poke a lot of times. If they're your recommended resources, we know you're being successful with it. We don't have to go look for somebody else.
Yeah, here's a tip on that. So you keep your reputation. Don't just put a bunch of resources in. Put only the ones in there that you know are good. Like, I don't put anything in there that I'm not using or have used, or I know somebody that's using it and it's working.
Okay.
That resource.
It can be through a mailing email list, or it can be maybe something on a website.
Yeah, it could be on social media. It could be distributed in any number of ways.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
Good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Great questions. Thank you guys all for being on here. We'll be back on next week, regular time. And if you have anything between now and then, just shoot me an email over. All right, guys. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right,
Thank you, John. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Johnny B. Johnny L.
Thank you.
Bye, John. Thanks.